Hello, everybody. Welcome to the December episode of Table Ready Livestream. Thank you for joining us. I hope you're ready to end the year on a high. These guys are all a bit weirded out because I wasn't wearing these when we went to the countdown. It's always good to surprise people. Anyway, welcome everybody. I can see there's a few people in the comments already. So I'm here, Adam's here, and our very, very special guest is Frank from Panzer Schule, who's joined us because we're going to talk about decals and stuff, which is Adam's big thing. So before we get into talking about German vehicle markings and stuff like that, Adam, what have you been up to recently?
Recently had a sale on, so that was good. Sold some buy two get the third free set, so that was great. But I've also been working on some decals. Unfortunately, life has got in the way recently, and I had great plans to expand the decal range, and then it hasn't happened. But I'm going to go on a break soon, so hopefully I can get a bit of work done over that.
So there are no British T numbers for me yet.
There is T numbers, just not the black desert ones that you.
Oh, okay. All right.
They're coming. They are coming.
Oh, Trekan says, I've got Wakdam Rhine deception glasses. No, this is obviously Soviet Maskirovka for the Cold War. That's definitely me. It's like, oh, Merry Christmas, comrade. All right, Frank, we should talk about who you are. Tell us who you are, Frank.
No, that's a good question. Well, Panzer Schule, I've got a YouTube channel, Facebook page, and I'm always sticking up painting, guide tutorials, battle reports, sharing pictures of completed work and such like, to give you guys a bit of inspiration and some ideas of how to get your own stuff looking good on the tabletop. I've got my Bah Humbug glasses, unfortunately. Not very Christmassy, but it's about as Christmassy as it gets round here. I could form that camo net into a Christmas tree shape, perhaps. But that might be about it. But I'm also a full-time painter as well, a commission painter. So painting every day, basically, really.
Yeah, and some lovely stuff, Frank. I've got some of Frank's gorgeous models, and he's actually got some on mine right now.
Yeah, I've got a box ready to go, yeah.
Which he just finished for me. But, yeah.
And you said some of the things you were particularly proud of at the moment were some older objective markers that you'd been working on.
Yeah, I've been painting a lot of classics. It's good when you're a painter if your customers are keen to get as varied a collection as possible. You can paint more stuff when it's just the same thing over and over and over and over again, but it's good to have a bit of variety, and I've been painting a lot of objective markers and also making YouTube guides for them and showing people who can't purchase the old resin ones how to make their own versions.
So those ones in the picture, Frank, are they all ones that you've made from the plastic kits, or is one of them a resin model?
The one with the turret with the top blown off is the original resin one.
Yeah.
And the one with the turret upside down and the end, or the transmission exposed, that's a homemade one.
Yeah, I liked that. That was really cool at the back there. It's all blown out.
No, that's very special. So, yeah, Frank, you said you were very proud of those. So I stole that off your Facebook page. So if anybody wants to go and see more of Frank's work, he always posts up plenty of stuff. Hang on, I've got to take these off. I can't do that for the whole thing. And I'm going to change. Oh, now I can't stop me light. So there we go. Yeah, so today we are going to talk a bit about decals. Is there anything that we need to talk about? Am I missing anything, Adam, before we go on to talking about that?
No, I guess no. I guess the reason why I started my decal range is the same reason why I started my dice range, is that I wanted a certain set of custom dice and I couldn't get them. And yeah, so I just thought, well, bugger it, I'll make my own. Now, the Battlefront decals, which I really do like the Battlefront kits because they generally come with decal sheets. unlike other models. They're kind of like a set lot of numbers, and then it's got one style with maybe like four or five tanks, and then the other style only has the numbering for a different platoon. So you kind of really limited.
So you're saying it's very hard to do an entire like thematic company.
If you wanted to do a whole company, or even three platoons using the same decal style or numbering style, it's actually really difficult unless you buy a third party.
You also tend to end up with all of your tank platoons with the generic decals all having the same numbers on them with the things that you buy. So it's good to have a larger range of platoon numbers.
Yeah. So
fair enough.
I decided I'll see how much it costs to get all these done. And, it worked out reasonable. So that's what I did. And so
was it a difficult process? Because you'd have to. I mean, I was there with some of the research when we were looking at British in the desert and what T numbers meant and those sorts of things. But how difficult was it to actually do the artwork and then get the stuff printed onto decal paper professionally and
the artwork
that sort of stuff?
Was a little bit tricky. It's trying to find the right font, or even you can't get a font, you've got to draw it yourself. So that's difficult, especially if you don't know how to use something like Adobe Illustrator or some of the vector format program. What's one of the most confusing things is the British bridging weight numbers.
We had some fun with those.
They don't. Generally, you can find a photo that says, "Yep, that's a Cromwell, and it's say 27 tons," and then you go and look. There's another picture of a Cromwell in roughly the same period of time, and it's got 26. Yeah, and another one's got 28. So which one is it?
Didn't we find a whole bunch of Centaurs that had like a
30.
3 or 4 ton range difference on them? Yeah.
Yep. So I guess what you've got to do is just kind of go, well, a lot of them seem to be this number. And there was one of them that was, I think it was the Staghound.
I remember that one.
12 and 13 and whatever. And, you could obviously go, well, the Staghound with the AA guns is going to be lighter than the Staghound with the normal standard.
37.
Yeah. So it's going to be lighter tonnage than the other one. And then sometimes you've got to go find a model kit somewhere, and they've actually done the research to find the right one. But a lot of research goes in to try and get it pretty correct. I mean, you can never say it's absolutely 100% correct, but as best as you can work out. So
yeah, fair enough. Because we did that with T numbers, and I ended up finding like that PDF of British maintenance sheets that had really useful information, like ranges of T numbers for particular types of tanks. Also, British tank names. So there were a whole bunch of weird British tank names that we could look at. Yeah,
that was excellent. So that was a really good resource. Yeah, thank you.
But also not a usual thing that you'd find. It's like, some maintenance document somewhere from some Ramey Records thing.
And you've got to usually search a forum somewhere, some obscure forum, to find out whatever. And then with the Germans, they had all these KSTNs. I can't remember what the German name is for that, but it's basically a theoretical tank strength from what a company or regiment should have.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they ever actually had it, but on paper, this is how many tanks they should have.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to represent a company or a battalion, theoretically, these are the numbers that you should have. So
and we'll look at that a little bit more coming in. So Forewarned Forearmed is busy saying he wants you to do some ANZAC ones, both for Team Yankee and Flames of War. Definitely yes, because I want some for 9th Australian Divisional Cavalry and that sort of stuff. So we'll definitely push for that. So Frank, is this something that you need as a product for the stuff that you do for commission painting?
Some people are quite happy to be generic. they're more interested in the camouflage, but there's other people who want to create a very particular project. And there's times where I've actually had to hand paint divisional insignia, for instance, the more simple ones. So it's very important to some people and not so important to others. And I think it's more important to people who more sort of closely associate their project with particular units rather than the game.
Yeah.
And I've done I bought a lot of specific sets for customers based on that. And when you see the finished result, it actually does make it look distinctive. Makes it look a bit more attractive. So it's a worthwhile thing to do, even if it's not something you would normally think about doing. It can add to the finished look.
Yeah, I remember. Was it Grant that got that German 12th Hitler Jugend that I think you did for him, and he had all sorts of. I think the decals were. I don't know if they were custom, but he definitely got it all sort of done up properly and had those really awesome star antenna for the half track, which are probably horrible to assemble.
That's very, very particular about detail. And as a painter, I don't mind if a customer's particular about detail, because it makes a project a bit more interesting rather than just painting. Like recently, I think in one batch I painted. Single batch was somewhere about 70 half-track variants on. It would have taken a lot longer to make them look individual, but paying attention to how they may have been, marked up and all the insignia and so on would have made it. It would have added more to it, added more to the cost as well, but it would have added more to the finished result. So it's definitely something that people should consider in terms of how to put it. Now, put it this way: you're going to paint it once. So try and put just a little bit more thought before you start, and you'll get, the better finished result.
Yeah, I find I really enjoy, lots of things about the hobby. But, if I've, first of all, especially with out-of-print figures or something, I'm like, all right, well, I want to represent this company. So I'm going to get these tanks. But I might have to hunt down out-of-print blisters from somewhere. So that's fine. I've got to find that. And then I want to work out, exactly what numbers did they have in 1943 at this thing. So then I've got to work out that.
Yeah.
And, then I've got to paint it to represent, and you add extra things like stowage and things like that, which I think at the start I didn't appreciate how much extra they added to the figures or the models. I just thought, it's extra stuff. It takes extra time to paint the figures, and I'm not going to bother about it. But yeah, kind of getting into the hobby a lot more. I really appreciate, things like extra stowage, weathering. I'm not really good at weathering, and I don't like my tanks heavily weathered. But I do appreciate someone that does a really good job of doing that to the vehicles that they have.
And Kristian is a very big fan of stowage. He likes to have lots of stuff on his vehicles when he paints them.
Yeah,
it adds character, but also it's a focal point for the area as well. When it's just a little bit of detail and maybe slightly different colours from the rest of the vehicle, and it just kind of brings it into focus a bit better.
All right. Ben says he wants some Hungarian coat of arms for trucks and half tracks, please. In terms of decals.
Does he mean the early war ones? I think I know what he's talking about. Yeah, that's doable.
Fair enough.
I've got a Hungarian army, so I would imagine that it's probably going to happen.
All right, so let's have a look at some stuff. So we are going to look at German tactical numbering for World War II. I've made a couple of slides that we'll go through fairly quickly. So just, if anybody's not aware of Adam's website, that's diceofwar.com.au. And you can go there to buy dice and now decals as well. And I mean, my favourite are the unit card folder things. I wouldn't be without my unit card folder.
I find them pretty handy when I go to events or just playing with friends. So yeah,
Yep.
So they're not all over the place. They're in a flip book. Really cool.
So that's the website. And the decals are actually already up for purchase on the website, aren't they? So you can go and buy those right now, or after the stream, perhaps, but not exactly right now.
Yeah, so I've got British late war generic ones for the armoured
Yeah.
companies. I've got German Balkan Cruise, which has also got some larger crosses that would use on the Butte Panzers. Butte Panzers. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. Sorry, Trican.
Yeah, the lesson I learned is the Germans use all the letters in a word, so it would be Butte. Yeah, right. Butte Panzer. It's not like French where you just drop off letters willy-nilly.
Yeah. And the
Thanks,
German, the German decal sets I've got currently are for mid-war, so 42 to 43.
Yep. So let's have a look at some of those then. There we go.
Yep.
So what are we looking at here, Adam?
So here we've got a whole battalion that you can do. So instead of just getting enough for like one Zug or one platoon, or even not even a whole Zug. So generally the Germans did 1 to 4 vehicles per platoon, or 1 to 5 vehicles per platoon. In mid-war, they usually had 2 light companies, which weren't really a light tank. They're actually a Panzer III. And they had a medium company, which was Panzer IVs. So you've got the first and second company were your Panzer IIIs.
Yep.
And the third company was your Panzer IVs.
Okay.
And your battalion HQ had usually 5 Panzer. Usually the, what are they called? Prank? The BLs, the command Panzers, they had a special name. I can't remember off quite at the moment.
I'm thinking Befehl, Befehl.
Yeah, Befel's Panzer.
Yeah, so but you sometimes had a real gun, sometimes had a fake gun. They would usually just chalked out with extra radio equipment. And also up top, we've got the Stug and self-propelled gun lettering. So early or in mid-war, when the self-propelled guns, or in early war, were introduced, they didn't really have the Panzer the Zug numbering. Thank you, Trekan.
Yep, thanks, Trekan.
They usually used A, B, C, D, F, G for the numbering. So, yeah, so you've got the 100, 101 for the HQ vehicles, 200, 201. And, they also had some Panzer II light tanks that were attached to the companies, which are also their either liaison or kind of observational scout vehicles that they would send out to have a look around. So they're in the smaller size decals there. So in the first company, the 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, you're all for the Panzer IIs, the same as the second company and third company.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that. So that's so let's talk about how. Well, before we move on from that, so you've got Balkan Cross, so you got, what are they, black ones with white outlines, white outline ones.
White outlines, and then smaller size ones, so the bigger size up the top, the smaller size down the bottom. I usually find those smaller size ones down the bottom are really good for half tracks and Panzer IIs, whereas the big ones up the top are better for Panzer III, Panzer IV. This, there's a row in around roughly the middle, which are quite kind of longer, Balkan Cross or Balkan Cruise. They usually put those ones on the, yeah, exactly, yep, on the Butte Panzer. So the captured T-34s usually, or the.
And you needed to make that a bit bigger and more prominent to stop them getting shot, right?
Yeah, well, that was that was usually the problem. They didn't have big crosses on them. Yeah, a bit of friendly fire. Yeah. So that was the reason why those are there. So I also find usually with the decal sheets that I get from other companies that you kind of maybe I'll use all the crosses, but I don't use anything else on that sheet, or I use some of the numbers, but I don't use anything else. And this way I figure, well, you've got a whole thing of crosses if you want them, and that you can use them for everything. The only thing is that I couldn't afford, or it wasn't economical to make them like maybe something that Battlefront does, where you put these in water and the Battlefront ones will lift out separately
But it's a
from
whole, it's a
sheets.
single sheet.
This is a single sheet, so you have to cut the
You have to
crosses
cut them.
or cut them out to what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only difference.
The good thing with that is at the same time you can trim them down to exactly the size that you need. That's what I find. So there's less of an obvious border to them, you know.
Yeah, I have a bunch of Dom's decals from back in the day, and yeah, they were the same. So it's a single sheet with all this stuff printed on, and you just need to, as you cut stuff out, as you say, Frank, trim it to the size that you need, and then, yeah, just make sure not to accidentally drop the rest of the sheet in the water while you're working.
Yeah. I got a
don't ask me how I know.
Yeah, I know about that too. I've got a really cool set of little Italeri, the model company. They did some I know Tamiya does the same thing. They're really handy just for cutting them out. If you try and use bigger scissors, it's just a pain in the ass. But
and don't try and use curved toenail scissors either, because you keep having to try and cut them straight.
I don't even know how you ended up in that situation.
Oh dear. So Trekan says Sturmgeschütz units didn't have the 3-digit numbers because they were part of the artillery, so they weren't considered armor. They were, actually part of the artillery branch.
Yeah. So when I
didn't they have different as well because of that?
Different what? Sorry.
Different coloured uniforms. So they didn't have the black Panzer uniform.
Yeah, they had the German green, the German grey, field grey.
Field grey, yeah.
Except the SS guys didn't. The SS guys all had black. Yeah. And then the Hermann Göring all had blue.
Luftwaffe blue.
Yeah.
All right. So here's a closer thing of one of the areas of the decal sheet. So let's go through that a little bit. So they're 3-digit numbers. How does that numbering system work? How are you going to use that on your vehicles to make that go?
So if we look at the first company, say the ones in the top there, 100 and 101. So that's first company 00. So how the German numbering system went was the first number was the company, the second number was the platoon, and the third number was the tank number in that platoon. So
the individual tank, yeah.
The individual tank. So if they had a platoon of 5 tanks, so you've got, for example, 121, that'd be first company, second platoon, first tank.
Yeah.
Now, the Russians worked out that the first tank was usually the HQ tank or the platoon leader. So then they started changing. Well, the platoon leader wouldn't always be like 121. He might have been a different tank, or he might borrow a tank from someone else. But usually how they then worked it out was the one with the most aerials was the one that they targeted. But,
fair enough.
Yeah. So, so if you go from 111, first company, first platoon, first tank, first company, first platoon, second tank, like that. Yeah. And the Germans usually did that. But then there was, I think, Flames of War, Battlefront has a good article sort of explaining this as well, but they also have some examples where they didn't follow that. Usually later in the war, I think, they followed. They might even have 4 numbers in some of them.
Yeah, some of the briefing materials you sent me said they started to mix it up, so you'd end up with like 116 or 117, not because there were 7 tanks in the platoon, but because they were trying to confuse who was what.
Yeah,
it's quite literally like painting a target on your back, isn't it? You know, once people understand how you're organised, they can go right.
It's like, hello, I'm tank number 100. You should shoot me now.
That one.
Yeah, exactly.
And what about the battalion? Is that that's an I, so it begins with the letter?
Yeah, so this was the battalion HQ. So they often had alphanumerical at the start instead of, usually it was I or something like that, or maybe an A or a B. So then they might have 10A. I think if this is mid-war, I think SS Viking started using letters at the end, so they might have 10A or I0A, I0B, that sort of thing, just to confuse. And then, I mean, obviously they would know what was what, but yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, in this case, all the I1s are the battalion HQ.
I've seen some start with R. Is that going to confuse the issue if I talk about that? Should I?
No, this is like primarily what the mid-war Panzer ones did, but I've seen other ones use R. There was another Panzer army that had Ks, but they actually put von Kleist, I think, his battle group actually all put Ks on their vehicles, not in the numbering system, but they put an extra K somewhere so everyone could tell it was from von Kleist battle group.
Trekan says the number of antennas is easier to pick than the numbers. And that's fair enough.
Yeah.
And particularly because they had that, the command antennas had like that chook's foot thing on top of it. It wasn't just a standard antenna.
Yeah, and in mid-war, like the SS Viking battalion Befelswagen actually had this like a frame, like a frame
frame antenna.
The frame antenna around the Panzer III. So his job, he wasn't supposed to get up there and be fighting. He'd be sitting back directing the battle. Right.
Yeah. Were they some of the command vehicles that then couldn't turn their turrets because of the antenna?
No, it wasn't. Or? No, the frame wasn't part of the turret. It just was on the back of the Panzer, right, so they could still turn the turret. But yeah, but that I think the wheeled 8-rad, the radio version of that did have it didn't have a turret. It kind of looked like it did, but it was more like a raised fighting compartment.
So it's Trekan saying if you see an RO1 number, it's the command tank of a regiment. So it's not the battalion, it's the regiment.
Yeah. So this is a battalion. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes
sense. That's one command level further up.
Yeah.
Thanks, Trekan. All right. Because I have seen some of those frame antennas, if you do have a turret where there's actually like a swivel on top, so the turret turns underneath, but there's actually like a joint that allows the turret to turn without interfering with the support for the frame antenna. Yeah, wordsing is hard today. So Frank, have you done a lot with commission painting for command tanks or weird vehicles that have been a little bit unusual?
Let me think. You're asking, it's a bit of a bluff, to be honest. I mean, in terms of specific command tank, it's probably been more about their numbering, and that's where specific sets, for like Pipers, in the Ardennes, for instance, things like that. And you say, customer will tell me, this is how I want each platoon to look, and they're quite easy to follow with a specific set when you do that. So it's probably more about the decals than about how the command tank looks for my customers, more about the numbering. They tend not to ask me to do a lot of bespoke work on vehicles because the price goes up then. You could do a little bit of bespoke work on 2 vehicles and in the same time complete 5 tanks.
Yeah.
Because you can production line, airbrush, assembly, airbrush, blah, blah, blah. When you stop and have to do something which is never going to get done again, it's a lot more time consuming and time's the driver for cost, really.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
So it's more about the numbers.
I have seen some people on Facebook do things like take a Panzer III and cut the main armament off it and put a fake one slightly off center to make the artillery, the artillery observation version.
That's not too difficult though.
So that's not a big mod.
A video up on how to do that.
Oh, was it your one that I'm remembering?
It could be.
Well, there you go. All right, so that's now these ones are obviously black with white outlines, right?
Yeah.
But you have other options.
Right,
Yep,
sorry,
so I've
guys, sorry. Take me off screen a minute. I've just got to go and help with something, right?
Yeah, sure thing. Oh,
Yeah,
well,
so
bye, Frank.
he'll be back.
I'm sure
so
I'll be back.
these are the red with white outline. So
Yep.
I know I always wanted a set of these for DAC.
Mm-hmm.
I know some of the other units, especially with against the Panzer Grey, that one was a good contrast, and they used that as well.
Yep.
And then we've got just the plain white outline ones, which I always think look really nice as well. So, yeah, I think
So that's what they look closer up.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with how they came out. I think I'll probably do another set for late war late war, basically for larger tanks like the Panther or the Tiger or something like of that size, because these are just a little bit small,
Oh, okay.
I think, for those. So I'll do another set specifically for big cats, I guess.
But the numbering system, I know there were variations of that, but
yeah.
I'm
So
back.
I'll probably
hey, Frank.
I had to go and assemble a mincing machine, believe it or not.
Yeah, we'll trust you if you say that's what you're doing.
homemade sausages, Frank.
Yeah, my wife wants to make meatballs. Really,
Oh, nice.
really good meatballs.
Oh, very good.
So we covered blah blah blah, red and white outline.
Mm-hmm.
So what else?
One question.
So yeah, sure.
Company commanders. What numbers would it just be like for the company? Would it just be like 100 and like 101?
Yeah, 100 and 101.
And then 201, 202, and things like that.
I think that leads into this then, does it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is specifically 5th SS Viking Battalion in July 1942. We're in the Caucasus. So you can see there, and I really like how they do this. This is from the Firefly collection. It's a series of little booklets that they've done. But if you see I00, that's the Befelswagen. They've got the little diagram there with the little frame.
Oh yeah, you can see the frame on the back deck.
And then all the ones in grey are ones that they kind of know that they have, but there's no photographic evidence to say that's the numbering. All the ones in black are ones that they've got photographs of that tank to confirm that that's the numbering.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so they should have had 5 Panzer IIIs for the HQ, but they're only ever given 3. So this is what I mean by the KSDN says, a battalion should have 5, command Panzers, but they, in a lot of cases they never got that. They also should have had 5 Panzer IIs as their liaison observer vehicles, but they only got 3.
Right.
The company or the light company, yep. So yeah, you've got your 2 command company commander tanks there, and then the 3 lots of 5 platoons or Zugs.
And they're long barrel 5 centimeter
Yep.
Panzer IIIs, aren't they?
Yeah, they're all long barrel. Well, they said that I think they had about, in the whole battalion, I think they had about 6 or 7 short barrel 5s.
Right. Okay.
But they're not sure. But I think if we had the picture of the other company, you'd see there's a photo. See that 235? So that's a short barrel 5 centimeter that they know is a short barrel 5 centimeter. They've got a photo of it. So the actual TOE from the company says they had about 6 or 7 of these short barrel 5s, but they're not sure which ones were which. So with the third...
Yeah, third company. I was just going to look at the third company because that's a mix of... Are they Panzer IVs?
They're all Panzer IVs. They're all...
Except for the Panzer IIs.
Yeah, so they got the observer liaison scout vehicles, Panzer IIs. They should have had 5 of those Panzer IIs, but they only ever had 2. And any ones that the spare ones in the second and first company all went up to the HQ to help them. But with the third company, they left Germany with 4 short 7.5 centimeter Panzer IVs.
Yeah.
They eventually lost some of those, I think, but there was definitely one left. But,
That's very careless of them.
Yeah, they got blowed up. But
Okay. I thought they just lost them down the back of the sofa or something.
no. But yeah, they only ever had 4 2 Zugs of 4 or 2 platoons of 4 in their medium or heavy company.
Yeah.
And I believe that they had the F1.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they had the F1.
Yep.
And then they had the early H's later. Yeah.
All right. So that means you can have a mix, though, in that third company. You can have some short barrel.
So when I've recreated it with all the guys, I'm going to have the HQs will be the late H's. And I'll have one platoon, of 4 shorts, and then 2 other, a mix of the early and the rounded barrel and the normal muzzle brake. So yeah.
Oh, you mean the F2 had the globular muzzle brake? Yep.
Yeah, so F2s and is it Gs? Gs after the F2s?
Yeah, Gs.
Yeah.
What does Trekan say? Also, for the records, Viking was never a European unit. German personnel made up more than 90%. Yeah, fair enough. Oh, Adam, you sound like you disagree.
I agree that it was never entirely a European unit. I think there was always more than 50% of Germans, but I think the amount of volunteers
it depends what you call German anyway. I mean, the SS were happy to call anybody a German to get them into their into the unit, like from Alsace or whatever. There maybe also been French for
or what they call them Volksdeutsch. So the people that were historically German, but because the border changed from World War I or something, then they were now French, even though they all spoke German or something like that. So yeah.
No, I must admit that's outside of my experience, so I can't offer a valid opinion on any of that. But
I think a lot of them, like a lot of the infantry battalions, they all kind of like there was a Flemish one, there was a Finn one. There's a Dutch one, and they all got kind of mixed together, and there was a whole heap of politics inside it as well, and it's a bit messy, but I definitely agree with Trekan that it wasn't a totally European unit. Well, as in all the peoples of Europe joining the SS. There was definitely at least more than 50 or 60% of them were Germans, or what the Germans considered Germans anyway.
Yep, fair enough. So I was talking last week, I put up a PDF about what Shermans you can build and can't build from Battlefront kits. And a comment somebody made, because I was talking about this is a late M4A2 and you can build that, but you can't build an early war or an early small hatch M4A2. And somebody piped up with, I don't care, as long as it's roughly Sherman shaped, which I thought was interesting in terms of people come to the hobby for different things. So, I mean, we like to have a look at this and get the numbering right and what have you, but you can quite happily play the game without any markings at all or a whole bunch of random numbers on it or whatever it is you want to do. But there are some people that that do care about this and want to get it right. I mean, other people are quite happy just to slap some numbers on that look right and go for it. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, nobody has to care that you can't make a standard M4 Sherman.
Yeah. Look, I've been to a tournament where some guys explained to me that this is the British whatever squadron that this battle, and I think he's done an awesome amount of work. Recreating and representing a historical unit. It doesn't make them roll any better. But
hey, if it did, I'd put some decals on my bloody units.
But I appreciate the work that's gone into it. At the same time, if someone hasn't got the right numbers on their team, that's cool. Whatever. I mean, the fact that they've gone and put the effort to paint them and put them together and do it, which is
basically this is a hobby, and we just need to respect
that
different people get different things out of their hobby, and try to take opportunities to learn and share, but not to boss and sort of overrule people.
And look, so I enjoy doing the research and whatever, and I know I'm nerding out over this, and I know 99% of people probably won't care, and that's fine, so. But I mean, I know there is some people that do, and the other thing is that at least what I'm trying to do is give a sheet or something that everyone can use, and that's why I try to put that information on it, like first company, second company.
I think I've said before though that people get different things out of the hobby. Like for me, I like the history. When I play, it's to get in touch with that part of history that I'm interested in. So, researching a unit that I'm going to take to a tournament or something like that is at least as much fun as actually getting anything on the table. But everybody has a different thing they get out of it. Some people just love to see terrain. Some people just love to see a really well put together board. My thing's history. Some people like Kristian and Frank are really good at paint and that sort of stuff. What would your focus be, Frank?
Well, for me, they're parallel hobbies to a degree, so I enjoy the painting, but that wouldn't stop me from enjoying a game where I was using something that was unpainted just to try it out, if you understand. So the game's a game to me, and it's like this it's like the social side of it. Whereas the painting is sitting down myself, working through projects and maybe learning something new, and the game is the social interaction where you talk to other players and find out what they're up to and see what armies have got, how they've painted it, and such like. So
I was thinking about you and I doing that dice rolling challenge thing where we were just comparing our bad luck. That was fun.
That was good. And that's sharing experience, and sort of crying into the glasses.
Well, there's sorry, Frank.
I'm just going to say that some people maybe tie everything together in what they do, but I'm kind of parallel. I could, for instance, imagine my hobby not having one thing or the other. I can imagine my hobby not being playing, just being painting, or not being painting and just being playing. And I think, to be honest, the vast majority of people who are in this hobby, it is just about the playing. It's the moving the toys around on the tabletop, and they rely on other people to a large degree to provide the background and the detail, and that's where people can share more about what they know.
But even for us, sometimes it's making the videos. I mean, I spend a lot more time making videos about particular kits and tanks and histories and markings and stuff than I do actually painting anything or building anything. And you do battle reports, Frank, so not only do you play the game, but then you have to go away and spend a reasonable amount of time turning it into a decent video product.
Yeah, it's quite a lot of editing required for all these kind of things, folks. And when you're watching these videos, they do take a lot of time. But it's part of the hobby, so to speak, for us. you know. And
It is, I think. And it's, I mean, you don't think about it that way, but it's what you do. I mean, I spent 3 weeks working on the video I published yesterday because it took a long time to figure out what I wanted to say about it, to film it, to do some research, to go back and shamelessly raid some of the history out of a couple of my other videos and stitch it all together into something that made sense.
yeah,
And I mean, you've been playing with cut down battle reports, haven't you?
yeah, because you know, like when you do a battle report, people say, "Can we get the full game?" and other people say, "Don't give me the full game." You know, because
Yeah.
people have got more or less time. So then a sort of light bulb moment, you know, why don't I just record turn summaries and then have one half or one portion of the report? Imagine an intro, then the full game, and then the just summarized report with chapters so that people can see what they want. That takes more time. You know, when you play a game like that and you're stopping to record all the time, like I only do that typically when I'm playing games here, most often against Peter, because he's got the time to do it.
Yeah.
It maybe take you 5 hours to play a game, and then it might take me another 3-4 hours to edit it all, you know. But I do what I can, and it is it's a hobby in itself, and it's part of the wider hobby and sharing what you're doing.
So when we're playing tournaments, we usually end the day with not having taken enough photographs because you have to actually physically stop at some point and go, hang on a minute, stop rolling dice. I've got to run around and photograph bits and pieces. You get to the end of the day and it's like there was all sorts of cool stuff I just didn't get to.
We get some of it sometimes, but yeah, I agree. We do miss some cool bits.
I mean, that does mean sometimes I go back to make a tournament wrap-up video and it's like, I've got like 6 photos. How am I going to change and stretch and, you know, pan across this photo for a long time just to make it all, stretch it out over what we need to say.
Or just ask other guys at the event if they've got any.
Yeah, that's true.
And I was just, you were talking about the hobby, like other people enjoy different things. We've got Elliot that we play with in Perth.
Yeah.
And he just loves putting together awesome tables. That's his thing that he loves. So I mean, everyone's a bit different. So.
Yeah, I did notice that the table game had upped a bit at the last tournament that I went to.
Yeah,
there was some really nice table stuff there.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what Kristian's talked about in the comments there. He's been very patiently. So 2 things he wanted to mention. The numbers are not for fun administrative reasons only. They are the radio call signs of the tanks on a tactical level, and that's, so, yes, you would be Panzer 131 or whatever number you were would be how you would be identified. So,
and that was the big advantage that the Germans had over the Russians, is that they actually had radios in their tank. You know, early in the war, the Russians didn't have any radios, even the command tanks, and the way that they got the attention of the other tanks was to wave flags out of the top of the. So
that's why you see so many pictures of like early war T-34s all piled up on top of each other, because they were literally just speeding along behind each other, and then the first one falls in a hole, and the other one falls on top of that into the next, and so on and so on, because they were literally.
Because the V3 rules tried to follow that with hen and chicks, didn't they? Yeah. That just shows how old we are. So Kristian's second point is when a unit left the front getting new vehicles, they often handed over the vehicles to another unit, and they didn't change the numbers if there wasn't time. Yeah, that happens a lot if you're filling the hole with whatever stuff you can get. I mean, that happened to Allied units because quite often if something got knocked out, you would leave it behind, and whatever repair and recovery units came along would then recover that. And they may not send it back to your unit. They might send it to another unit or something like that. And there's not always time to, you know, you try and shovel the last crew out, but you might not repaint the whole tank.
Well, I remember writing an article for the US, one of the light cavalry companies in the Battle of the Bulge. And they had to, when they heard the Germans were breaking through, they basically went to a repair and whatever depot.
Yeah.
basically just went through any tanks that they could get that were working and in half decent condition. Had about, I think, 24 hours to or 12 hours to repair what they could, and this basically took what they could get out of these depots to drive off and try and stop the Germans. You know, they had priests and Stuarts and Shermans and whatever, you know, had wheels and tracks and ran. That's what they took. So
I remember something similar for the 11th Armoured Division for the Bulge. When they got pulled into the Northern Front, they had actually turned all their quite war-weary Shermans in and were actually doing the conversion training for Comets. But when the thing happened, they weren't qualified enough on Comets to take them into battle. So they had to go back to wherever they'd turned all their Shermans in. And there's histories where they talk about, well, they'd already taken the radio out of this one for servicing. So we went into battle without a radio on that one. Or, you know, this one, the telescopic sight, secondary sight for the gunner was busted. So, yeah. They weren't always fully functional when they went and got their very tired Shermans back out of wherever they'd handed them into.
Yeah.
But things like that can add a bit of character to a project too. If you've got a German unit that's maybe got a few differently decaled tanks in it, because they have maybe been, you know, donated some, that could maybe be an interesting wee element, you know, like the makeup of the unit that you're working on.
Yeah, I thought one of those in the Berlin book, the training companies, the tank training companies, that'd be a cool modelling hobby sort of task to kind of, you know, do a different mix of vehicles and camo and all that sort of stuff.
If you really want
so
to,
would it?
you could strip off the tools and things, you know. 'Cause those kind of things we'd be missing on training tanks. But once again, it's how much time you want to put into these projects.
I have seen stuff where people have done like one of the panels of the side skirts has a different camouflage pattern on it to make it look like, you know, that one got salvaged from somewhere.
That's a nice touch.
Yeah. A friend of mine was recreating Camp Group Hummel, which was a German Tiger camp group, I think, in not Bulge. What was the one? Arnhem, yeah. And these were all different marks and early versions of Tigers, like all Tiger ones, but like an early and a late, a mix, and then different parts. And there's some documents, some of that actually in detail writes down like all the different characteristics that these Tigers had, and with photos. So yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
All right, so we are 53 minutes in. So I don't want to go over too long, but given that we do have some time, I thought I should talk about decals that I know something about, and maybe I should talk about, so Battlefront, as part of the NATO Forces thing, sent me a decal set for the NATO Forces. So this is the French, the Canadians, and the ANZAC forces, and I thought if we want to, we could very quickly go through those before we wrap up.
I've got
Is everybody happy with that?
Yeah, I've got some of these coming to me in the mail from my French forces.
Yes, well, I have a second set coming from for some of my ANZAC stuff. So these are the French. So if you've got them for your French forces, what I've done on these is I've marked them up. So some of these are helicopter markings. So the AEH sort of markings there get used on the Gazelle choppers, and the Army de Terre goes on the tail, and of course the roundels. So those are all helicopter markings. The individual letters, I believe, go on the front, on the nose, just under the cockpit.
Oh, you put the did you put the...
Yeah, I've marked those up.
Right,
so,
okay, yeah.
Yeah. They don't come like that. No, this is value adding from Fog of War, man. That's,
Yeah.
and the other stuff is armor, because Leclerc are very minimally marked up. I have occasionally seen like a outline of the country of France in white on the sides, but usually it's just a little tricolor either on the front or on one of the fenders, and usually, I believe it's a battle name, so the name of a particular battle from French history,
Oh, right.
on the left and right side of the cockpit turret, aft of the hatches. But very simple markings for the French. Was that the kind of thing you had in mind for yours, Adam?
For my French ones, or the I don't know yet. I haven't done a lot of research. I just bought the BF ones.
Oh no!
I haven't even painted my French. That's how far behind I am in my French. I've got them. They're sitting there in a lovely box, just waiting for me.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
But,
so
you mentioned though that I've seen that the outline of France in some pictures. That'd be a good idea.
I don't know if that's a particular unit that did that or whatever, but just in the research I did, I saw a couple of tanks marked up that way. But the French vehicles are very minimally marked.
I noticed there's no Den Bien Phu there for the French.
I'm sure it's there. It's just well.
Yeah.
No Agincourt either.
No.
No.
All right. So we might leave the French behind before we start getting in trouble with our French viewers. Yep. I didn't mark this one up because Battlefront have actually done the work for me. So if you notice, there's actually sections there where it talks about what's for what. Forewarned Forearmed says, or Waterloo.
Yeah.
Whoops. Oh dear. So these are the Canadian decals. And these are very similar, like when we get to looking at the Australian ones. Again, if, a section would be 1-1, 1-1 Alpha, 1-1 Bravo, 1-1 Charlie. So those are your call signs for that particular troop. The 1-9s, I believe, are for part of the Squadron HQ. So there's some numbering that goes on with that. But yeah, all the rest of them would be for either tanks or for APCs.
And as it is, would that be sufficient for a typical Team Yankee force, or would you need more numbers?
That's quite a few. So that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5. Yeah, so that's 5 platoons.
Right. That'll cover it, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And there's some specialist ones. So like 1-3 Delta, 1-3 Echo, 1-3 Foxtrot is ADATs apparently. So there are different numbering systems there that are okay for...
I did have a friend that plays Canadians and is Canadian. And he did say the one thing a lot of the Canadians tanks didn't have the white outline around the maple leaf.
Right,
So
okay.
that might be something. And then a lot of the leopards have like a snarling leopard face. So, yeah, that might be good to add.
Oh, Trekan's saying you use some of the Canadian numbers for blood red skies. For Geschwader numbers. All right. So you get some maple leaves. You also get some Canadian flags. But the rest of it is just tactical numbers. So, and now these are all from the NATO Forces decal sheet you can buy, by the way, if I didn't mention that. So that comes with 4 sheets.
Well, there's the leopard faces I was talking about.
Yeah, so this is the ANZAC one. So we've got the tanks there. And again, you've got 1-0 Delta, 1-0 Delta Alpha, those things for your tanks. And again, that's the particular section that you've got.
These are the Aussie ones?
Yeah, these are the Aussie ones. So they come with the, so that Delta symbol in there is A company, and I believe the squares are Bravo and the circles are Charlie. So you can chop those decals up, take the triangles out and stick a circle in between to make up if you want lots and lots of different companies.
Yeah, I've done that with German ones, and it's a little bit tricky sometimes to get them
Yeah, to then.
level.
Well, that's why you get the circular one then, because it doesn't matter, you know, if it's a square, it can go wonky. But
True.
so maybe go for Charlie if you want to chop them all up.
Mm.
So yeah, the black ones are for the tanks, and again they've got the leopard left and right outlines. And I mean, is it a leopard given it's black? I don't know, but it being a panther doesn't make any sense. But they go on the turret.
There's no such thing as panther. There's just a leopard.
What, a leopard with really big overlapping spots?
Yep.
Okay.
I learnt that.
So yeah, those go on the turret, just behind the gun mantlet, I believe. And then yeah, the numbers are for your APCs. So again, it's that same thing of 2-1, 2-1 Alpha, 2-1 Bravo, 2-1 Charlie. Forewarned Forearmed says it's the unit mascot for the Panthers. Right, I wasn't aware of that.
There you go.
But yeah, so that's
what
actually...
would you use for the ASLabs?
I believe the numbering system is similar to the APCs.
Okay.
But yeah. So we'll go away from that one. Oh, there we go. So this is something that I'm slowly putting together. So please don't take this as gospel. I'm actually looking through.
No, Harry said,
there's a graphic. Yeah, this graphic has evolved over the last 2 years I've been working on this little project. So again, you've got your troop HQ of 20 Alpha, 20 Bravo. 29 Juliet is the troop sergeant, apparently. And 29 Mike is the ambulance, for anybody who has a boo-boo. Now, 29 Juliet and 29 Mike aren't, for the call signs, aren't actually in the organisation in Team Yankee, but it's just there anyway, because...
Why 29?
So this would be that particular troop number. So that's 2 troop. So 20 Alpha is the is the troop commander. So then you go down to 2-1, and that's the leader of number 1 section. Mm-hmm. So 2 troop, number 1 section, and then he has an Alpha Bravo and possibly a Charlie call sign that goes along with him. And again, 2-2 is 2 troop, 2 section, that kind of thing. So that's very standard. So Forewarned or Forearmed is saying the 9 call sign is a roving call sign. So again, yeah, these can be assigned out. So anybody with the 9er in their call sign can often get... Yeah, so 20 Alpha and 20 Bravo are the troop HQ, but the other guys can be loaned out or what have you. That's my understanding anyway. Like,
I have no idea.
No, me either. Oh, somebody had a question about... Oh, okay. So fire support vehicles. Yeah. Let me just flip back. I haven't got fire support vehicles in here yet. And when they got introduced in Vietnam, I've just finished rereading the history. And apparently when they first arrived, they were formed into... all the fire support vehicles were formed into their own section. So there was like 4 of them. And then later on, they actually got added to the sections themselves. So they got broken up as 1 or 2 attached to a section. So there might be the Charlie and the Delta for a particular section. Sorry, I hope that answers the question that you were asking. So we were looking at, so you asked about tanks. So again, similar numbering system. 1C is your command tank for the squadron. I have no idea what his 2IC's number might be. What do we got? And then we've got first section. So this is first troop, first section. and his Alpha, Bravo, and Charlies. So you can see those are all available. Forewarned Forearm says it's 19 Charlie, which is a pain because I don't think there's a 19 Charlie on the decal sheet. But hey,
Squadron HQ 2IC is 29C.
Is 19 Charlie. Yeah. So the squadron leader is 1 Charlie.
Yeah.
And then his 2IC would be 19 Charlie. 9 because he's a roving call sign. He can get sent off somewhere to... He can be attached out.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it does make sense. So yeah, that's just some stuff I've been working on my own to try and understand how that works. And Forearmed has been helping me with that on Facebook. So this is... Sorry?
I was just going to say, I don't know if you've been looking at Team Yankee Facebook stuff. Lee from Breakthrough Assault's been doing a series of posts on...
Lee Parnell, yep.
Yeah, on some Aussie stuff, and I'm just looking at making me really want to do an Aussie modern force with the Leopards and ASLAVs and all sorts.
Yeah, so for the ASLAVs, this is where you get your red kangaroos from. Vietnam needs some black kangaroos, and I think some of the M113s used white kangaroos, but whatever, now we've got some red kangaroos to go on our ASLAVs. Canadian helicopters, so we've got low-vis and high-vis roundels. Hey, look, you've got some maple leaves with no white outlines.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. And Canada for the tail. And then the New Zealand Skyhawks. So note they have proper New Zealand tail numbers.
Very good.
Ooh. So yeah, that's just the Team Yankee NATO Forces decal sheet if nobody'd seen what those are about. Sorry, that was very much me because I knew about that one, but I just thought we'd get some Team Yankee in there.
No, that's good.
All right, so that's covered some decals. So with yours, Adam, how much is it for a sheet? We didn't actually cover, because you can order them online.
Yeah, it's about $7 for a small sheet, but I think a whole battalion, I think it's about $12 or something. Yeah, so like if you wanted just the crosses, for example, I'm pretty sure that's $7. And if you wanted the whole battalion sheet, it's $13. And if you want a whole British tank regiment, so that gives you enough for support you HQ. Yeah,
and the attachments.
So it gives you the regiment and the attachments. I think that's $24. So that's like for 30 something, 40, almost 40 tanks or vehicles. So yeah.
All right, so I hope that was useful for people. Certainly the German numbering system was something that I was vaguely aware of, but the ins and outs of it were not something I was fully across, so that was cool. Frank, is there anything that you had thought about?
Mentioning the application of decals, if people are maybe not too confident about something they've skipped before. I mean, you want a coat of gloss varnish down, right? But you want to be careful how much gloss varnish you're putting on things because it can really darken the surface, acts as a filter. So I typically, if it's a small panel, I'll put gloss varnish over the panel itself. I normally have the whole thing glossed as part of my washing process, but it's a very thin coat. And after you apply the wash, it can get a bit matte after that. So I apply a bit of gloss varnish. And then you want to be using something like a product like this, a wee dollop of that, and then put your decal on top and then push it down. And if it's a flat surface, that should be enough in itself. You don't have to then go on to another step, which would be like a softener. But you could use a softener if the surface is irregular, like Zimmerit, which can be really tricky. make sure it's nice and dry, and then you can attack it with this. But bear in mind, if you attack it too much, you're going to start breaking the decal material down, and that might look cool, but the chances are it'll go too far and you'll end up with just a mess. But
yes, I must admit, the very first time I used decal softener, all the decals just fell off eventually.
I have actually a really old kit. What was a 3-plane, 3 aircraft plane set, and the decals. So imagine how old that is from Battlefront, and the decals are original. And I think it was Typhoons, and the roundels all went on. I got them all on, but it was something like 5 different parts each. You know, where they just split.
Oh no! Yeah, I remember those ones.
I'm like, I don't have any more roundels here, you know. So placing each one on and then try to move the other one without moving the rest. But certainly using these kind of products definitely helps. And using gloss varnish, then I'll put a matte coat all over the whole tank, but I'll paint on with brush over the panels that I've applied my gloss varnish and decals to. And then if you've got any really bright, bold decals like US stars, then get yourself, if you've got pigments, it's handy, but a wee cotton bud with a tiny wee bit of pigment powder on it, and just rub it over the surface. And that gives it a dusty look. So it still looks white, but it's not like, you know, like really someone turned the lights on.
Not stark white,
It weathers it down, and you can do that with other decals, but it's typically the really big decals, like the US ones, that can be a problem. The roundels with the star in the middle.
Yep. So remember, I had that problem with the Sturmovix that I did for my Soviets, Adam. I sprayed them with matte varnish, and all the decals wrinkled up and became very uneven and weird. And
decals can be a bit weird.
I was unhappy, shall we say, given it was like 2 days before the tournament. I go, oh, God damn it, it's the last step.
I do something very similar to Frank when I put my decals on. So I'll do a thinner coat of gloss varnish underneath the area that I want, and then I'll take the decals off. I'll put them in the area, and then I'll use decal set and decal sol, which are probably the same things. That is, it's just a little bit different. I have heard from a mate that uses the Mr. Hobby, like you've got, and the reason why you want to use those is some decals are thicker. So I've been told that the Battlefront ones are a bit thicker, or they're a thicker one. So it's good in that they don't tend to disintegrate very easily. But it does mean that sometimes, to prevent silvering on the model when you put it on, they can. So what silvering is when you get that outline, you can basically see an outline around the decal.
You can see the decal film, the transparent decal film.
So you can use a softener to get rid of that. You can also, what I do is I'll brush the matte on over top like Frank does, but then I'll use an actual spray can of matte, and that seems to really it's almost like it's just like a filter almost. It seems to balance everything. So that's how I do mine.
Is this where I should admit that I usually don't like varnish it at all? So, you know, I just finish painting and then they go in the thing and I take them to a tournament and push them around on a table.
Which is fair enough, you know. That's what.
Does that make me some terrible Luddite? You guys are going to start twitching and.
I used to do that, and then my decals fell off and I got sad. So,
Oh dear. All right, guys. I think, astonishingly, we're only like 15 minutes over time, so we'll probably call it there for for this evening. So this is going to be our last Table Ready live stream before in 2023. So it'll be Christmas and the New Year before we know it. Frank, thank you very much for joining us. It's always lovely to have you on the channel, and your lighting's looking much nicer than the last time you were on. So well done with that.
It's my natural skin tone, you know.
We were discussing Scottish skin tone earlier. We have been bullying Kristian, and Kristian promises that he will actually come back sometime in 2024. So we've definitely missed him over the last 6 months, but he's got at least a half decent excuse for not being
He's got
here.
a good excuse.
He does have a good excuse.
But he's not getting any decals until he comes on a live stream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although his channel's been doing particularly good.
He's been doing very well.
Yeah. As soon as he's got more subscribers than me, I'm going to pack it in. And I've been doing this for 7 years. Oh, dear. Anyway, so it's a Merry Christmas for those who celebrate it from us, and we will see you in the new year. Adam, did you have anything you wanted to say to...
Yeah, I'm going on a trip, so I won't. You can buy some dice off me, but they're not going to ship until the end of January.
you're not taking them all with you in your luggage
No,
and
no,
post
I'm
them
not.
off for...
No, so I won't be back in the country until the 18th of December. So I'm going to Trinidad and Tobago via Tokyo, so that should be fun.
Yeah.
I was kind of thinking today maybe I can sneak into some sort of Japanese war museum or something in Tokyo and not bore the family to death, but I don't know if I can do that. But I know there's an old Japanese dreadnought sitting in Tokyo Bay that I might be able to sneak onto. And I know there's in the middle of Tokyo, which I've been to, there's a Imperial War Museum, which has got some cool stuff like a Zero and some Japanese tanks and all that sort of stuff. But
So you'll have to bring back some photos of Japanese tanks then, and we can talk about that.
well, yeah, that'd be cool.
Because maybe they'll get mentioned a bit in the Battlefront Christmas message, which is the other
Maybe.
thing that we need to
Maybe they will.
be looking forward to, because that should be coming. So
Yeah, lots of hints and little secrets that Pete tends to let slip. So
yeah, he's always good value for that sort of stuff.
yeah.
My vote is, I'm looking at all the stuff that they're producing for World of Tanks, so I'm guessing we're going to see a lot of 1946 stuff. We've already got the T-29 heavy US tank and that sort of stuff, so that'll be something to watch out for. All right, guys. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you for Frank for turning up. Adam, I'll see you in 2024, and I think we'll call it there. Night, everybody. See you next
Thanks,
year.
guys. Merry Christmas.
Bye.
Happy New Year.
Bye.